Okay, go ahead.
All right, we're ready to go. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for attending today. And let's just start right on the agenda, I guess. And the first item was the review of the official plan. But we have Sherry with us, and I'm thinking that maybe we should talk to her with her first. And she's here to discuss, what we discussed last week or last time that we met about the student isolation during COVID and how we could, as a city, support the Georgian College. And so, yeah, let's open up that discussion right now. Sherry, any thoughts on that? I mean, I know that as a city, we're partnering with Georgian on the sort of home share, sharing a student kind of arrangement. Tell us about that, and then what else we might be doing.
I'm wondering if somebody from the group could just give me a little bit more. I didn't see the minutes from your last meeting, so my apologies. Just even like a 2-minute snapshot of the issue at hand, so that I could probably do my best to provide you with some insight on how we could best support that.
Okay, Judy, I think it probably came as a result of some of the comments you were making. So do you want to do the 2 minutes? Okay.
Yes, I certainly can. I'm just trying, I'm getting my video up here. Hopefully it's working. Hello.
There you are.
Oh, nice to see you. Happy winter.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like in the last video I had the autumn leaves in the background, so this time I would have the snowy white trees just to provide a snapshot of our progression.
Yeah.
Yes, so we've talked about this in the past, but it specifically came up when we were talking about COVID. And like, this is just such a tough time of year for everybody. We don't have to hash through that, but if you add onto that the isolation of coming to, I mean, for the new students who came last year, but got very little interaction with the city, their college, their neighbors before everything went into shutdown. I mean, I can't imagine having gone to college or university and not really having the chance to make friends and build social connections. And that's persisted for so many months. And now we're getting into a really difficult time. And some, especially for international students, if their home countries are struggling as well right now, there's the added pressure of, being a support person for at home and also being worried about that. But we're going into orange right now, and there's even more that's closed, and there's so few opportunities to engage with the city of Barrie and for it to feel like a supportive home, because they're college students, but they're residents of Barrie as well. And then what we understood, I think it might have been Brian who did say that, well, as of right now, the orientation was on for the new student influx in January. I expect that will probably ebb and flow in the coming weeks, but in the past we've tried to reach out to, or we've gotten into the not the habit, but the goal of being part of orientation in some capacity, and that's going to look different this year. But I think if we think about how isolated students are in general, regardless of where they came from, if they're residents of Barrie, this year is just so much tougher. And this goes beyond just the student services available on campus and mental health services specifically available to students. But I mean, we're all struggling with this, but I think this committee, Town and Gown, is in a place to at least be aware and address the reality that the students and / residents that we talk about are going through right now. So I don't know, that was a bit long-winded for, it's really terrible time. And I think that that we could do something together to reach out and help to break through in the coming months.
Okay, so just so I'm hearing you right,
And-
but the primary audience is our Georgian College students. Is just so I'm understanding that correctly, Judy, that's I mean, residents in general, which they are included, but the opportunity you're looking to enhance would be how we make these students, these new students or returning students who haven't had a chance to kind of get to know our city, understand our city and some of the services we offer, and that we're here for them. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly.
That was a great summary of what I had attempted to share. Thank you. But I also wanted to just like put a note out to the rest of the group if they wanted to add, because it's been a month and I didn't mean to speak on behalf of everybody. If there were other thoughts, I know there's the BHA members, perhaps they want to add in another perspective on that synopsis.
Well, I thought actually it might be helpful for Sherry if Brian or Todd give us a quick update as to what Georgian is doing at the moment or thinking about doing for the new intake and what issues you might be having at the moment. So you want to tackle that, Brian, a minute?
Sure, thanks. So we do have a number of new students who will be coming to campus in January. Most of the programs will remain remote delivery. About 60 to 65% will be remote delivery. The remainder will have hands-on components. One of the things we are doing for the winter semester is compressing it some and having a later start date. So we actually won't start classes this winter until January 18th. Part of that is the international students who will be arriving have to isolate under the government mandate for 14 days. So we've offered a couple options for them, one of which is a package within our residence. We've kept a few of our floors empty that we're allowing our international students then to do the self-isolation there. We do have a number of plans in place where staff and peer mentors are checking on them daily and doing some activities with them. So everything, of course, virtual. But you can imagine for a new student arriving in particular into a new country, not being able to directly interact with people, how lonely that could be. And as much as I think our residence is nice, you're still in a small residence room. So we're making sure we can engage with them in as many ways as possible. So that's what's going to be happening. We will have students starting to arrive really anytime from around the Christmas period onward. So most should arrive right around the beginning of January. We've just been added to the designated learning institutions list that the federal government has. So that now allows our students to be able to come to Canada. There was a huge there is a huge backlog in the visa office in India. The offices were shut down because of how many cases they had. And last we heard there were about 60,000 visas waiting to be processed. So the good thing is being on the DLI list, they are prioritizing those. So hopefully our students who are supposed to be coming will arrive. But we certainly feel for them not being able to integrate into the city the way they normally would. And a lot of the great things that the city does, we work closely with your transit department. You know, they've provided free city tours on the buses, a number of things that happen to engage students and start to get them to understand, you know, there's great resources with our library, great little businesses downtown, but you know, COVID obviously is preventing a lot of that from happening and providing these, excuse me, community spaces that our students would normally go to.
Great.
All right. So then I guess the question is, and maybe I should ask this at what's happening at the moment at the college for the existing students that are there? Anything that you're doing particularly there to help them?
Yeah, so anyone who may end up in isolation, so any of our current students, whether they're on campus or off campus, if they've tested positive for COVID or maybe a suspected case, we are providing them with accommodations in the residence or in a hotel, because as you know, a lot of our students are living large groups of students together and aren't effectively able to self-isolate. So we work closely with public health. They notify us if they have a case or suspected case, and then we'll take the students and get them housed appropriately to try and minimize any potential spread of COVID, whether it's positive or not, just making sure whatever's happening doesn't spread. Our other students who are actually on campus, we have all our protocols in place that are all approved through public health. We actually just sent a memo, the president and our vice president academic just sent a memo out yesterday or the day before to all our faculty to move courses so that any of the on-campus component can be compressed for the remainder of this semester, with the goal of having that part achieved within the next 2 weeks. As we see the cases, sorry, I'm going to shut I'm in Oro with horrible country internet, and I'm getting an unstable signal again. So I'm going to just shut my video off so that I can keep talking. There we go. Hopefully it'll stay up. Sorry, I lost my train of thought now.
You're compressing.
Thank you. Yes. So we're compressing the on-campus semester now to try and complete within 2 weeks, knowing the rise in cases within Ontario. So we don't want students to end up having to come back for a makeup period like we had to do in the spring. And we're looking, and then that's part of the reason why we've compressed next semester and trying to have everything front loaded so that if something should happen and we move into a red category within the county and have to shut down or minimize the number of students in a lab, we want to have as much flexibility as we can so students are impacted as minimally as possible.
Okay. All right, Sherry, any thoughts on that? I think you've got the overall picture of what the situation is, and I guess the city is kind of, we're kind of thinking, well, how do we, as a city, do we support that in some fashion?
So off the top of my head, it's not an easy solution, or else we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That's right.
I think I think there's a few opportunities. I have a few more questions for the Georgian team, if that's okay, as part of my thought process here.
Sure.
The package that you prepare for new incoming, whether they're resident students or off campus, I'm assuming they get a package you mentioned. So would we have an opportunity as a city to put something more in it rather than just transit? Like perhaps we do up something specific for this time on the city, on kind of, get to know your city, and you guys could provide us with, the top 3 or 4, or if it's 5, things that we would be best to share with those residents. So you mentioned libraries. So where our libraries are, how they access our libraries. You talked about the downtown businesses. If there's something like that we could put together as a tangible piece of information to provide to them as a tool, as a resource, that would be helpful. And we would be happy to do something like that. I don't know if you've thought about this from Georgian, but for your res students, I know they all have access to technology. And I've seen it from some of my daughter's friends are in university, and they have Facebook groups that the universities or the colleges have created for their residences or for students on campus living and off campus living, as a resource to share information and to kind of feel like they're connected to a community. I don't know if Georgian encourages those or leverages that type of opportunity for students, but that would create kind of a sense of place for those students outside of sitting in the hallway and playing cards or sharing a drink or having a coffee with somebody. It is another way for them to kind of collaborate with others in similar circumstances away from home and things like that. I don't know if Georgian does things like that. And I also wonder for the on-campus students, I'm assuming, remembering back to my days, are there things like residence assistants within the campus that are available for students as a resource as well? Just, you'll have to remind me. I'm assuming Georgian has that as well, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so quickly, Sherry, on those, if I remember them all correctly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we can get information to our students. Everything, of course, is being done electronically now.
Yep.
And I forgot to mention, for the orientation for the winter semester, it's actually going to happen in advance. Usually we take the first day of the semester, but because we've compressed it, it's going to start earlier and then extend over about a 2-week period, with just sessions occasionally throughout those 2-week period.
Okay.
We do have, the college has a Facebook account. Students tend, within residence and within the off-campus residences, they just create their own Facebook groups. And what we find with our international students is they're really using WhatsApp is their preferred method.
Okay.
And we do have RAs within the residence, so they are doing normal programming as they normally would around a variety of topics or issues, of course, all being done in a virtual manner, but those will continue to happen not only throughout this semester, but into the winter semester as well.
Okay. The reason I asked, I think the RAs is an interesting opportunity because they're not interacting with the city as they might normally, but they might still be interacting or seeing their residence assistants. And how might we best leverage them to help us be city ambassadors for us? Like, what kind of information and tools could we provide to the RAs on the city so that they can help us be ambassadors for some of the services and how they can get to know our city?
I'd like to ask a question to Brian. As somebody who used to manage RAs at a university, what I understand from Georgian is that the RAs or DON positions would only actually exist in the current residence, which there's just the one, and it's at lower capacity right now. So I love the idea, and I think it's great. I just wonder how many students there actually are to be those ambassadors. And it actually got me thinking, like the peer mentor piece. I did want to ask what kind of peer mentoring, I'm sure there's something in the works within the student life umbrella, but wanted to maybe ask or plant the seed with the BIHA reps, Rob and Ryan. And I wonder what kind of interesting volunteer opportunities might there be within the resident organization to perhaps be some kind of a city mentor or welcome mentor, somebody who loves, is very savvy with making videos, perhaps wants to play around with making some types of welcome videos, so to that effect. So that's a little sidebar, but I think it might be a great way to involve BIHA and residents, given the ideas of joining orientation is off the table right now.
Rob, any comment on that? You're with BIHA.
I would say that we have not had many meetings as BIHA over the course of the last 9 months. So I definitely think that there could be some opportunities to create some collaborations. I mean, even the City Snow Angels program, if there's a way to engage students and create some outreach and opportunity for them to get out into the community, even those small efforts could help. And I definitely think that it's something that BIHA could discuss and come back in January with some suggestions.
Great.
Thank you. Sorry, what's Snow Angels? You might have shared before, but I don't remember.
That's where you lay on the snow and you put your arms up and down.
I love it though.
No,
it's a new city program that's designed to basically have volunteers help clear the windrow at the end of driveways after they've been plowed. for elderly or people who have mobility impairments and that sort of thing. So I think like there could be some great opportunities with that.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so those are my ideas for my brain dump for Georgian. But then from the city perspective, the one thing that I think might be helpful, and it goes to what Brian was just saying, that everything's digital for them, that there's no, like, we're not transferring of materials because things are different as well. So everything's going online. Perhaps I could reach out to our team in IT and our GIS team. And perhaps there's an interesting story map that we could create, kind of like a, for students, welcome to Barrie, get to know your city. I don't know how I would package it yet, but this is what I'm thinking. And in layers of this GIS map are things that they'd want to know, where the libraries are, shopping. We could do something for transit. But big part of the mental health piece is actually getting out of doors and of course doing it safely. Promoting our trails, where our walking trails are, where our parks are, in close proximity to the college. So because there are a lot of those assets close to the college and in that area that we could promote within this story map. I love where Rob was going with the snow angels. Maybe there's a story map on volunteer opportunities. One, we have that with the city, but there's probably lots of other ones. Maybe we could just have links to other organizations that have volunteer opportunities. We could add as many layers as we think would be appropriate. You guys could provide us with a list of some ideas that you would have. And then digitally, through whether it's Facebook and all the social channels, we could help promote that through our materials as well as Georgian. And I think we could create an interesting tool. I don't know if I could have it ready for January 1, but we could certainly aim for that, to get that together quickly. The sooner I could get kind of the assets we would want to promote, the quicker I could get our IT team, who are they're very good partners. I'm sure we could get it done quickly. I just wouldn't be able to commit to a turnaround time without talking to them. But I think it would be a really interesting tool we could leverage.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Sherry. I love the story map in particular. Yep. About pointing out where are the trails in the different parks, yep. Because there are a ton of them, but our students often don't know where they are. Yep. And so I think that's a great idea. The other part that I loved was the volunteer opportunities. And we could take that information and we could add it into what we call our CCR, or co-curricular record. So when students participate in things like that and do volunteer activity, we can record that, and then they get a co-curricular record, kind of the non-academic transcript, if you will, that helps with their resume when they're done and going out looking for jobs. So we could help promote it. Classes won't begin until January 18th, so the orientation is just going to start late the week before. But this is the type of information we can get to students at any time. So whenever you're able to get it to us, we can make sure we're getting it out to our students.
Okay.
All right. I think that. Did I hear
Claire?
somebody want to say it? Yes, Jake.
I just had a comment that I think number one, that's a really awesome initiative, because online fatigue is a very big thing with students, right? And I think that this is going to provide that opportunity that's going to allow them to not specifically be tailored to a screen with some of these. But I'm also wondering, and I don't know who this would actually sit with, if there was a way for, assuming that we could be potentially heading to a lockdown, if there's a way to set something up now that could help connect our students who are somewhat socially isolated with other socially isolated or marginalized community members within the Barrie area. And I think, very specifically about the stories we've heard where university students were boarding with elderly folks to help. The elderly folks would provide a place to live, and then the students would help them complete some of their tasks. And whether it's just connecting and having a conversation with some, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just the senior citizens within the area. It could be anybody who's really living alone or feeling socially isolated, and just trying to bring them together and connect them that way. I don't know if that's something that the city of Barrie can support, or if that's something that necessarily sits with the college, or how that project could even happen if possible.
All right. Any comments on that? Thanks, Jake. I think that is, and it is something that we're working on, actually. There is that student connection that I think the city has a program to work with Georgian to make that happen. And I think there's already some of that happening, but we can certainly give it a push, I think.
Yeah, that sounds like a great. That sounds like a great idea that could maybe go through the Connected Core program that's running out of the mayor's office right now. They may have some interest in sort of being the middle organizational body of that.
Great idea.
Yeah, I know just anecdotally where there are, senior people that rent a room to a student and have done it for years. It helps the student, it helps them with their payments, and some students have sort of gotten out of that family members for life. So it's very positive in many cases. So Sherry, I suppose we could probably, is there a link to that program somewhere, or somebody managing that? We might be able to, in that package that we're talking about producing, maybe we could add that to it.
We have lots of different, so it's Discoverberry is the platform, and that's what we call our GIS mapping. There are lots of different maps that have already been developed. So I think for some of these, for example, our trails and parks, we already have maps or layers of a map created. But what we would do is we would create a package of maps. So there would be, whether it's 6 or 8 or 10 different maps into what we then call a story map. And it's one place that we would be able to market that they could go and find. If I only want to know about libraries, because I'm really studious, but I need to get out of my dorm and I want to go to a library, this is where I can go. Or I just need to get outside and I didn't know there was an outdoor rink around the corner from me. So we would just create one place for all of the maps to live and market that as our story map. And there would be layers, one for library, trails, parks. You guys just tell me kind of some of the ideas you have for the layers and we can build the map.
Okay. Do we have any more for Sherry today? Brian, can you connect with Sherry? And it seems to me that that would be a good way to make sure that Sherry gets the information that she needs in terms of what kind of layers she should really have on our maps.
Yep, that's perfect.
I'll do that.
Okay.
It's great. And Brian, if you go through Tammy, she'll have my contact information.
Perfect.
She can maybe connect us, Tammy, after the meeting, if you wouldn't mind. That would be amazing. Okay.
Good.
Right.
Good.
Super.
All right. Well, thank you, Sherry. That was very helpful, and I think we moved the goalpost a little bit, so that's good. Thanks.
You're welcome. Judy, did you have one other thing for me before I go?
No, but on the same topic, so I didn't know if we were moving topics, but I offer that I'm going to speak with the community librarian. I work at the Barrie Public Library, who specifically focuses on newcomers, but that can be just newcomers to Barrie as well, about this, and then also how to be involved and perhaps more intentional with Georgian students. So I'd just like to add that we need more library involvement, so I'll bring that up.
Super.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Jim. All right. Thanks, Sherry. And if you have other things to do, you're excused if you want.
If you need anything, Claire, following the meeting, please follow up and we're happy to help.
For sure. We know where to find you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Sherry. All right. The next item on our agenda, which we skipped over, was the review of the new draft official plan. And Rob, maybe you can just fill us in on where things are there.
Well, so the document's 250 pages, and it's taking a little longer to get through, I think, than any of the three of us had really anticipated. On top of, I know for me personally, I've just been crushed with work coming into the US Thanksgiving weekend. So we chatted this morning, the three of us, Brian, Ryan, and I, and our thought was that we're going to commit to getting through the document and then meeting to discuss our thoughts next week over a Zoom or some such thing. And we would then propose that we'll report back to the committee through Tammy via email so that the committee can be aware of the comments that we're considering making. And if there's endorsement from the committee, then we can submit them by the 22nd deadline.
Okay. Yeah, I guess given that we will have to do it electronically because we're going to talk about our meeting schedule next, but there may not be a formal meeting of this committee unless you want to do it on Christmas Eve, which is fine with me. But all right. Thomas, do you have any comment on that? Does that work for you?
Councillor, that works fine with me. Where as long as we get those comments in by 22nd, it's, and the subcommittee can always reach out to me for any clarification questions, or through Tammy. I'm open to that as well.
Okay. And I'm happy to be a resource to the committee if need be. Tammy, did you want to say something?
Just a concern that making sure that everybody's on the same page, whether you want to just set up a 5-minute meeting in a couple weeks and just go over the comments. If you got it through it, we can do that as well.
Yeah.
Just to make sure everybody's on the same page before you submit your comments.
Yeah, let's see what the comments actually are, Rob, when you circulate them. And at that time, we can determine whether we ought to have a quick Zoom meeting to talk about them, or whether we're good to sort of edit them and pull them together that way.
Just because there's committee members not in attendance as well. So
yes.
So far, most of the comments are very supportive of the language and the direction and how the plan is put together in such a comprehensive way.
Yeah.
Brian may have some comments of his own.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that if anyone else has been looking at the plan and you have any comments, if you want to forward them to me, I can incorporate that into what Rob, Ryan, and I are pulling together.
Sure. Yeah, I would think that, I mean, a big piece of, I agree with you. I think that I would be very supportive of what the plan says about the whole Georgian area. I think you may want to think about the student accommodation piece of it and see whether we can somehow do more supportive work around that, and integration into the surrounding community as well. But I will leave that to the committee members to work out. All right, the next one that we have on our agenda is meeting schedule, and that is with the eye to 2021. We have always met at 10 o'clock on the 4th Wednesday of the month. Does that work for everybody still in the coming year? I see a couple of nods. I'm good with it. So my proposal is that, Judy.
If possible, that won't work for me.
Oh.
But I won't know that, unfortunately, with our scheduling for another month, I think.
All right. Well,
yeah.
Are you good if we stick with it for now? And
yes.
If we get, okay. All right. So that's what we'll do then. So put it in your calendars, subject to anything happening with Judy for this 4th Wednesday of every month. Our next meeting is scheduled would then be scheduled for the 22nd of December. Normally we don't meet in December. So I'm proposing that we do not meet in December, and subject to this official plan thing, if we have to meet, we can do that sort of at the call of the chair, but otherwise we'll meet again next year. All right. The next item on our agenda is just general updates. I think we've heard from Brian at Georgian, unless, Brian, you have other things that you want to update us on?
No, I'm good.
Okay, you're good? I didn't quite hear you, but.
Yeah, sorry, nothing further from me.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Question for Brian. When is orientation, and like what are you planning to include in it? Like, I assume at this point we're not going to be doing anything official, but an official like hello and welcome might be nice to include, but I don't know if you have an idea of what that's going to look like. I know that's not specifically one that you work on.
Yeah, it's through my area though, so I'll follow up with Asia, who is our coordinator for all those orientation transition services. And maybe what I can do is get that information and send it to Tammy, and it can be included with the minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay. Anything else for Brian? All right. Well, I'll just go along the line as I see you on my screen. Michael Gallagher.
Thank you, Councillor Riepma. General update from zoning. Since our last meeting, was the 28th of October, the city has received roughly 88 zoning complaints. That's as of this morning. 48 of those have been in the East End. This is a time of year where we typically see most of our complaints in the East End being relating to vehicles parking on the front yards of the property. I would say probably 75 to 80% of my complaints in the last month have been relating to that. Mind you, it's typical because of the snow. People don't want to park on the road and they're beginning to park on their lawns, but we are finding compliance in most of those areas. But we do rely on the public to bring that to our attention. But that's pretty much all the update I have for you at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Jason, anything from you?
Yeah, part of that problem is likely because my staff are going to be out issuing tickets all night long. My apologies for missing the October meeting. I was tied up with other details at that time. I just wanted to give a brief summary, very brief summary about our COVID enforcement this year. Since April, we had in excess of 11,000, closer to 12,000 complaints and interactions dealing strictly with COVID, on top of our usual complaints. A lot of businesses, a lot of gatherings. It wasn't so bad in the East End, surprisingly. It was kind of spread out all over the city. I guess with a lot of students heading home when schools closed and everything, it was kind of even from one end of town to the other. But yeah, we were close to 12,000 interactions just because of COVID.
Wow.
Some updates I just wanted to give you was the winter control that Michael gave me a good segue to. As of this week, we've been out issuing warnings, putting little tags on cars, just letting them know that as of December 1st, they can't be on the road or they risk a ticket. Starting December 1st, we are out there 24/7. We'll have 4 staff on every night, regardless of weather, ticketing vehicles. So, maybe Brian and Todd, if there's some way of communicating to the students that this is happening starting next Tuesday, so they don't wake up to any surprises, that would help. And just one other update regarding property standards. We're finally up to full staff in that department. We've done 2 recruits in the last couple of months. One started early October and is now trained up and on the road. And our 4th one starts on Monday, has a few weeks of training, but by mid-January, our property standards department or group should be in full swing, at least ready for spring when everything starts to start up again. That's really all I have at this time.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Jeff.
Thank you, Councillor Riepma. I don't have a lot to add from last month's meeting. I know we were touching base last night with regards to the speed board on Blake Street, and we've had obviously some trouble with it since it was installed. It's brand new, and we're working hard with our electrical contractor guild is going to be removing it, and we're shipping it back to the supplier to get it bench tested and hopefully fixed quickly. I can say that if we lose much more time, and it's more than likely we will, that we'll just keep it up for the next cycle. We'll just keep it on Blake Street, because I think it's in a good location right now for people coming into town. So obviously it's not fair to the residents of Ward 1 that they're not getting the value out of it. So I don't have a problem with keeping it there for another cycle. So it should be coming down shortly, and we'll send it off and hopefully get it back within a reasonable time. But timelines are kind of unknown at the moment. The speed board on Johnson Street, or not Johnson Street, on Shanty Bay we're getting about an average speed around mid 40s, and 85th percentile speed is right around 54. So those are good numbers that traffic's happy with, and hopefully the residents of Barrie are happy with those too. It's anytime we can get under 10K an hour over the speed limit for an 85th percentile speed, I think we're doing good. So that's about all I have right now.
Okay, well, that's great. I appreciate those speed boards. I have a question for you. What percentage of the speed that it records are cars that are going well over the speed limit? Like, are there, like, you're giving us averages and 80 percentiles, but
yeah,
is it like 2% that are flying by, or is it lower?
I don't know off the top of my head. Like, I can dig deeper into the data. I have the data. It's just a matter of picking out the anomalies. I can tell you that there's going to be some high speeds that are rather alarming. We've brought that to the attention of the police in the past, and their response is, well, more than likely it's a cruiser. So we have them programmed so that they don't flash excessive speeds, just to get away from people trying to, I want to see it flash 99, right? Yeah. So depending on the location, we usually don't flash anything over like 20 over the posted. But right. I can dig a little deeper and get you, I can break it down into kind of speed bins, maybe like 65 to 70, 75 and above, or 5 kilometer increments.
Just curious to see. I mean, the average hides what the extremes are, and be interesting to know.
Yeah. So that 85th percentile. So 85% of the cars are going less than 54K an hour.
Yeah.
So we got 15% above. How high? I'd have to look at the data.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Anybody got any other questions or comments that we need to make?
I'd like to update from the library. So the library is doing a great job right now with contact tracing and following the orange protocol. We can still have up to 50 people in at either branch at one time. In my experience, we haven't had close to that in the 4 months that we've been doing it. However, the biggest challenge, I think, that would relate to students or referring people to the library during the isolated months is that we're not encouraging groups of more than 3, aside from families with kids and whatnot, to come in together to do anything, to sit down, etc. And then for table bookings or room bookings, they're only for 2 people. So study space and tables, and this might be helpful for Brian to know especially, but there are a few study tables specifically at the downtown branch that can be booked online. They can certainly give us a call or email askus@barrielibrary.ca, or do a self-booking online. It's just a little bit hard to find the booking, but you can book for up to an hour, and then if you're with somebody else, they can book up to an hour. I mean, the bookings are very, very few right now. So I do encourage people to be coming in, but they are limited to 2 people at a table. So I just want people to know that we're not encouraging throngs of people to go to the library, because we wouldn't want to have a negative experience of turning them away or speaking to them. There are internet computers. We're at a lot lower capacity, but there are, I believe, 10 or 12 internet computers that are available for an hour, and a few less at the Painswick branch. they need a library card. I've been on the phone desk for the last few months, and we are getting and doing memberships as well as inquiries, and we are getting so many new memberships from new residents and those who haven't had a membership for a long time, specifically to use audiobooks and ebooks, and also to register for programs, including the story times for kids. So that's been great. I mean, it's certainly not near the number that we would have if they were coming into the building, but it is nice to know that people are using them for audiobooks and ebooks. So that's something to promote, especially during if Brian said some of the classes will be accelerated, I mean, there might be a lot of boredom happening in the month that people are off. So the library is taking requests online. It's very easy, barrylibrary.ca. And then there's a get a card button, and then you can apply online. You could just need to provide your address. You don't need to show proof of address. You just need to say where you live. And there's a button for I study in Barrie or I live in Barrie. And we will reply within a couple of days, sometimes right away, to give you a library card that you can use right away. So just wanted to promote that. But as much as we miss our patrons in the library so much, and especially kids and families. We're missing the vibe for sure, but there is a lot being offered online and a lot to learn as well, courses and whatnot. And for residents who have kids or grandparents who have kids and are looking for things to do with them over the holidays, there are a lot of online resources for learning language, online kids books, etc. So you don't have to break the bank buying lots of things. Your library probably has it.
All right. That's a really good promotional video that you just made, Judy. All right. Any other items that we should talk about for a minute? Okay. Well, we've worked very efficiently this morning, and I thank you for that. So we will see you at our next meeting, which is going to be January 27th, 2021. So let me wish you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year at this point. All right. Thank you very much, folks, and we'll adjourn the meeting. So
thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.